Hey friends, happy Wednesday. All right, so I promised you guys I was eventually going to come on here and kind of share the entire housing story. So be prepared, it's going to be a lot of stories. But here we go. So just a quick background. We have been living in Pennsylvania for the last it feels like more than 5 years actually. Graham's here, he's driving. And Graham did his residency here at in Hershey and also his fellowship in pediatric anesthesia. And he completes his fellowship, I think it's like the third, actually after the second week of July he's done. So we have a position in the Virginia Beach area. That's where we're going to be moving next. God just opened. That's a whole other God story. I'm not talking about that one. This is mainly a housing thing. But all that being said, he starts August 16, and so we were kind of on the hunt to find a home before then. So we've rented our entire marriage. It just made sense. We lived in Maine for 2 years, New Hampshire for 2 years, here for 5. It just didn't make sense to invest in a home. And we kind of went into this housing process like renting is our backup. Like if we can't find something, we can rent. And we always had the date of April 30th in mind. Like this was going to be the day that we officially go down and look at houses. We ended up going in March just spontaneously. And that trip to Virginia Beach, we took Luca, if you guys remember. That was a very I think God used it for our communication to figure out our differences and what we like, what we don't like. So that was a really good weekend. And then after that, we did a lot of virtual tours. Like our agent went on our behalf. She would FaceTime us while she was there, show us every detail. We ended up putting 4 different offers in, and every single time they were beat out by just money wins. Money wins every single time. Crazy, crazy offers, people pulling out all the stops. And I know there's a lot of friends on here that are also in the midst of home buying. The process can get very discouraging, very frustrating. And the whole time, I know in my head that God's got it. I know that He, wherever He places His hand, for us to have a home, no one can take it. You know all of this, right? But when you're walking in it, it's just different. It was really hard. And I remember the week leading up to April 30th, I even shared with you guys here, there was such real difficult warfare going on for me that week spiritually, and I shut down so hard. I was struggling to pray. I don't think I prayed out loud at all that week. I just went into I just numbed out. I just struggled to keep it simple, and I didn't want to go. So April 30th was coming. I didn't want to go, and I was ready to just say, forget it, we're renting, I'm done. The only thing that made me get in the car was the idea of a weekend away with my husband. So I get in the car, we get in the car, and it's a 5.5 hour drive, and it's April 30th, we have, I think, 4 showings, and I'm in a funk the majority of the drive, but I'm determined. I'm gonna snap out of it. I'm gonna eventually talk to my husband about what I'm wrestling with. I kid you not, the last maybe 10 minutes of the drive, we're almost at the first house, and I suddenly feel this urge to pray out loud. Keep in mind, I have struggled to pray all week. I don't know how else to explain it except that the moment I opened my mouth to pray, something broke. Something broke. I softened. Instant joy, instant peace. Just God's presence so thick. And we were just thanking God. Nothing had even happened yet, but it was just a posture of humility and praise and just you've got it. You've got it. And so we are going to do our part, which is looking, but we believe there's something there for us already, whatever it might be, just kind of loosening our expectations and releasing the outcome and being ready for anything, right? So the first house, online, it didn't look the most impressive. The pictures were kind of unclear. It wasn't a picture of everything. It was the house that's probably the least excited about. I'm sure you know where this is going. But we get there, and here's the interesting thing. Virginia has a fair housing law, which means you cannot see, communicate, send letters to the owner. No contact, just to protect against discrimination, things like that. So we get to this house early. We were early for some reason. We saw the owner walking out with his dog to pick up his kids from the bus stop, and we're talking to him. I'm pretty sure the whole time I was convinced we were going to go to jail. I was I didn't know at the time that the owner was the seller and he was his own agent. No wonder we could talk to him. It all makes sense now. And so we had a great conversation. We're just talking about schools, etc. And you know when you just see people and it's like, oh, you're human. Like, I just feel like the seller market has just felt very cutthroat. And so we got to actually put a face to the name and communicate with him. Got into the house. Long story short, it just felt home. Like peace. It's nothing crazy, but like there is just like something as if God was like, I don't know how to describe it. Now we have other homes you're supposed to see. We went to see another one after, and I was like, we're done with this. Like nothing felt the same. And I said, this is the first house is the one we're supposed to fight for. So like, are there any offers? The agent tells us there were, but he keeps denying them. So you know, at first we're like, why is he denying offers? It's just really strange. In hindsight, because as I said, when God ordains something for us, for his children, no one can take it. No one can move it. No one can undo something he does. And so, anyway, so long story short, there were no current offers. It's Friday evening. We decide to go at asking price, nothing fancy, and with an escalation of like, we'll keep going 1,000 above any offer up to 10,000 over asking. That's what we can handle. That's what we can do. That's what keeps it wise. Okay. Saturday, out of nowhere, another offer pops up that we technically beat them in the asking price. We were still 1,000 over, but they decided to do a 10,000 appraisal escalation. So if the house is actually appraised for the same or less than what it's, selling for, then they would just pay them 10,000 cash up front to kind of fill the gap of the appraisal. And so we kind of came back with, we could do 7,000 of an escalation for appraisal, but we kept the being 1,000 over their asking price, and we didn't change much on that. Saturday evening, we find out that they came back and their counter offer was, I think at this point they were now 30,000 over asking and 20,000 cash for the appraisal escalation. So like money-wise, their offer was significantly better. The only thing we had going for us is that we asked the owner, when does he need to close? And he said he just bought another house that it's a fixer-upper for his family, and he needs time. And we said, time we can give you. So we can close June 2nd, and you can stay living rent-free until July 15th. Now, it's not the first time we've put something like this in our offer, but of course, money wins every time over convenience. But not with this family. So here's what's wild. At 9 p.m. on Saturday night, we get the word that he chose our offer. If you are currently in the market for a house, you understand, like to someone else, this might be like, okay, cool. No, you don't understand. Like, this was God. This was God times 1,000. There's no other explanation for him to choose our offer. Our offer was not impressive. Our offer was not all that great. Yeah, it had the time factor. It had maybe some level of convenience, but that's not usually what people are going for. But God, this is what's beautiful about the Lord, is that there's always a meanwhile. He's always working. We don't know how. We have to trust and wait on him with hope, with confidence, with assurance, right? At the beginning, when Graham and I were praying over our future home, we said, God, I don't want us to brag about anything we did. I want this to be all you getting the glory. And so when we had initially heard from our agent, we were at the beach in the evening about the counter offer that was significantly more money. I started laughing. Now I laugh when I'm nervous, but I started laughing because it was this moment where I was like, oh my word, this is the Red Sea that you're going to split. Like, there is nothing we can do. We cannot match it. It would not be wise use of our finances. And so it was like we were standing at the Red Sea and there was nothing we could do but show up, stand, and wait on the Lord to split it. And he did. We got to meet the family yesterday, all of them, like him and his wife and his 2 kids, and just praying that that would be a fruitful relationship and that we could be a light here as well. And just, guys, I really don't know what else to say. So I know it took me a long time to come on here and share every detail of this, and there's honestly still some things I'm sure that are escaping me. I had everything written in my journal. My journal's not with me, but I'll never forget when he chose us, this moment of like, I couldn't stop weeping. I was like in bed and I couldn't sleep and I couldn't stop crying. And it was just because of like that whole entire week prior, I felt like I had just failed miserably at like seeking the Lord and at trusting him. And so just to experience his grace like that, like coming at me like, my faithfulness is not dependent on yours, and picking me up and walking with me. So whatever you're waiting on today, like a home, a child, whatever it might be, I just want you to know that God is faithful. He is not late. Never. He's never late. And he is working while you're waiting. And waiting is not idle. Keep praising while you wait. Keep trusting while you wait. Keep seeking him. Keep doing your part. We could have quit and not looked at anything and just sat back and done nothing, but we kept looking for the house, believing that it's there. Like birds, when he says, don't worry, like look at the birds. They don't worry while they're looking for food. They're still out there looking for food, but they know they're going to find it. So they're not looking anxiously. They're looking with anticipation. And so I just hope that that is a word that is encouraging to you today. I just remember after this, I was like, forgive me for ever doubting. Forgive me for ever like forgetting how faithful you are, and that you're never late.